Some faces are not meant to be seen. I need you to listen carefully to this warning. Don't watch this alone. The Grinning Man is not a shadow. It's not a spirit. It's not something you can simply ignore or rationalize away. This face, it follows you. It watches you. And once you see it, it never truly leaves your mind. The image becomes a permanent guest in the darkest corners of your memory, waiting for you to close your eyes. The first documented reports of this chilling entity emerged back in the 1960s, primarily concentrated in the states of West Virginia and New Jersey. The stories came from ordinary people doing ordinary things, truck drivers on long-haul routes, hikers exploring scenic trails, and late-night travelers just trying to get home. They all described encountering an impossible human face, a face with an unnaturally wide grin stretching from ear to ear, filled with teeth that seemed too long, too sharp. The eyes were described as unblinking, glassy orbs that stared right through you, devoid of any warmth or emotion. And the presence it projected was something that chilled them to the bone, a primal cold that had nothing to do with the weather. Some witnesses claimed it appeared with shocking suddenness, standing silently in the shadows of an alleyway or along the shoulder of an empty, desolate road, its gaze locked directly onto them. Others said the face would materialize out of a thick bank of fog, float in a forest clearing just beyond the reach of their campfire light, or even appear as a fleeting reflection in a mirror when they were completely alone. As these reports began to pile up, investigators and paranormal researchers took notice. They quickly realized this wasn't just a trick of the light or a case of mass hysteria. The sightings were often accompanied by strange physical phenomena. Electromagnetic field detectors would spike erratically, recording energy where there should be none. Thermometers would register sudden, drastic temperature drops in the immediate vicinity of the sighting. And most unsettlingly, witnesses would experience unexplained, overwhelming panic attacks, a fight or flight response so intense it left them gasping for air. This was more than just a scary story. Something tangible was happening. One of the most famous and well-documented encounters comes from a truck driver named Jack Mankiewicz, known to his friends as Jake. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and Jake was navigating his rig down a foggy New Jersey highway. The visibility was poor, the road was empty, and the only sound was the hum of his engine. Suddenly, his headlights caught something on the roadside, a figure, standing unnervingly still. As he got closer, the light illuminated its face, the smile. It was impossible, he later told investigators, his voice still trembling with the memory. No human face can stretch like that. Against his better judgment, curiosity mixed with a protective instinct made him slow down. He thought maybe someone needed help. He pulled over, intending to approach the figure, but in the instant he took his eyes off it to shift the truck into park, it was gone, vanished without a trace, without a sound. Jake was left alone on that dark highway, his heart pounding in his chest for hours afterward. The experience didn't end there. For the rest of that week, his truck was plagued by a series of strange mechanical failures. The radio would blast static on its own, the engine would stall for no reason, and the lights would flicker uncontrollably. It was as if the encounter had left a lingering, malevolent energy on his vehicle. The stories from West Virginia were just as terrifying, but they took on a different, more naturalistic horror. Hikers and campers deep in the Appalachian wilderness began reporting a pale, almost skinless grin floating in foggy clearings. It would appear just beyond the tree line, a disembodied smile and 2 staring eyes hanging in the air. Witnesses described the face moving toward them, slowly and deliberately, its unblinking eyes seeming to calculate their every move, sizing them up. The effect was paralyzing. Some hikers froze in place, utterly unable to move or scream, trapped by an indescribable terror. Others broke and ran, scrambling blindly through the woods, not daring to look back. For those who managed to escape and returned later, sometimes days or weeks afterward, they found chilling evidence of their encounter, unexplained cold handprints on their shoulders, the sensation of a frigid touch that no one could have left. And worse, some reported hearing whispers on the wind, whispers that seemed to echo their own names, even when they were miles from any other person. It was as if the forest itself was taunting them, reminding them of what they saw. What is it about this specific image that inspires such profound terror? Psychologists who have studied the phenomenon of the grinning man point to a concept rooted deep in our evolutionary wiring. The human brain is hardwired to recognize faces almost instantly. It's a survival mechanism. We scan for friends, for foes, for emotion, for intent. But when that familiar pattern is distorted, when a face is wrong in a fundamental way, like with an impossibly wide smile, or dead, unblinking eyes, it triggers a deep, primal fear. It bypasses our rational thought and hits the amygdala, the fear center of our brain, with the force of a physical blow. This uncanny valley effect creates a reaction of terror unlike any other, because it's a violation of one of the most basic rules of our perception. This is why the legend persists. Even now, new encounters are reported along those same dark highways and in those same isolated forests. The grinning man hasn't gone away. It seems to be a permanent fixture in the American landscape of fear. The folklore surrounding this entity has grown over the decades, and with it, a set of desperate, whispered rules for survival. Locals in the areas with frequent sightings pass down a chilling piece of advice. If you see that grin illuminated in your headlights, whatever you do, do not blink, do not look away. The belief is that breaking eye contact is what gives it power, what allows it to close the distance between you and it. You are supposed to stare it down, hold its gaze until you are safely past. It's a terrifying test of will. Many who have encountered it claim they were haunted in their dreams for weeks, even months, afterward. The face would appear in their nightmares. It's silent, grinning visage, the last thing they'd see before waking up in a cold sweat. The entity itself is elusive. It vanishes before any physical approach can be made, dissolving into the shadows or the fog as if it were never there. But its presence lingers. It leaves behind an emotional and psychological scar, a cold spot in the victim's soul. The question remains, is this a single entity, or a phenomenon that manifests in different places? Is it a warning, or a predator? The truth is, no one knows for sure. But one thing is certain. If you're ever driving on a lonely road late at night and you see a smile that's just a little too wide, maybe it's best to just keep driving and not look too closely. They say a smile can brighten your day. But what if a smile was the last thing you ever wanted to see? What if it was a grin so wide, so unnatural, it haunted you for the rest of your life? Tonight, we're not talking about a friendly smile. We're talking about a warning. Because this grin does not forgive. Some who saw it never felt safe again. Welcome to Tales of the Dark. Tonight, we delve into the chilling legend of the Grinning Man. It's a story that has whispered its way through decades, leaving a trail of fear and sleepless nights. Our journey begins in the recent past, a time when the modern world started to document its encounters with the inexplicable. During the 1980s and 90s, a strange pattern of sightings emerged. Campers, tucked away in the supposed safety of the wilderness, and late-night travelers, alone on desolate stretches of highway, began reporting the same unnerving figure. They described a man, standing perfectly still, sometimes on the side of an empty road, other times in a silent forest clearing. He didn't move, he didn't speak, he just smiled. An impossibly wide, unnerving grin that stretched far beyond human capability. Naturally, people tried to capture proof. In an era of developing camera technology, some managed to snap blurry photos. Others had dashcams that caught a fleeting glimpse of the figure. But a strange phenomenon accompanied every attempt at documentation. Experts who have analyzed the footage say this entity cannot be recorded clearly. It seems to possess an aura that distorts light and shadows around it, twisting reality itself to remain just out of focus, a perpetual blur in our world. The few images that exist are more frustrating than they are revealing, showing a dark, humanoid shape with one single, terrifying feature piercing through the distortion, that impossibly wide grin. It's as if the entity wants to be seen, but never truly known, leaving its witnesses to question their own sanity. The Grinning Man doesn't just confine his appearances to lonely roads and dark woods. Perhaps the most terrifying encounters are the ones that happen in the perceived safety of our own homes. Multiple accounts describe seeing his face in reflective surfaces, a glance into a darkened window as you pass by, a fleeting image in the surface of a still pond, or, most frighteningly, in the bathroom mirror. Witnesses say the grin is somehow more intense in these reflections. It appears wider, the teeth sharper, the expression more profoundly unnatural than when seen in person. It's as if the reflection is a purer, more direct manifestation of its malevolent nature. One story, from a teenager in the late 90s, is particularly chilling. He was brushing his teeth, staring absently into the mirror, when his own reflection began to subtly change. Behind his own image, another face started to form. It was the Grinning Man, his face just inches from the teenager's own reflection, his lips moving as if whispering a name the boy had never heard before, but instinctively knew was his own. He ran from the room screaming, and the encounter left him plagued with severe sleep paralysis for weeks. He said that even when he was awake, he could feel the cold presence from the mirror, watching him from every reflective surface in his house. The legend of the Grinning Man isn't just a collection of isolated incidents. It's a tapestry of terror, woven from the experiences of countless individuals. As I dug deeper, I compiled more stories from locals, each one adding another layer of dread to the phenomenon. There was a young couple, driving home late one night through a dense forest. Their car suddenly sputtered and died. As the headlights flickered, the figure of the Grinning Man appeared in the middle of the road, bathed in the dying light. His smile, a pale slash in the darkness. Just as suddenly, a thick fog rolled in, and when it cleared moments later, he was gone. Their car started right back up, but they drove the rest of the way in terrified silence. Then there's the story of a lone hiker, deep on a remote trail. He had the distinct feeling of being watched, the kind that makes the hair on your arms stand up. He heard faint whispers on the wind, words he couldn't quite make out. He quickened his pace, trying to dismiss it as paranoia. That's when he felt it, the distinct, icy touch of long, cold fingers on the back of his neck. He spun around, but there was no one there. Only the oppressive silence of the woods and the lingering echo of a silent, smiling presence. Even those just passing through aren't safe. A delivery driver on a cross-country route reported seeing the grin from the corner of his eye, peeking from behind a cluster of trees on a rural road. Immediately after, his truck began to stall. It would run for a few hundred feet, then die again, repeatedly, for miles. He said it felt like something was toying with him, keeping him there, in its territory. He finally abandoned the truck and ran to the nearest town, refusing to ever drive that route again. Every incident, whether it's a fleeting glimpse or a direct encounter, ends the same way. The witnesses are left with a lasting, crippling paranoia. They suffer from recurring nightmares featuring that horrifying grin. And most unsettling of all, they carry with them the chilling, unshakable feeling of being watched, a feeling that follows them long after the encounter is over. It's a psychological scar that never truly fades. So, what is this terrifying entity? The question has baffled paranormal researchers and folklorists for years. There are several prevailing theories, each more unsettling than the last. Some believe the Grinning Man is a classic paranormal entity, a being that feeds on human fear. The more terror it instills, the stronger it becomes, explaining why its appearances are so sudden, so shocking, and so psychologically damaging. Its goal isn't to physically harm, but to mentally break its victims. Another theory suggests it's a manifestation of the uncanny valley. This is the psychological concept where something looks almost human, but has one detail that is so profoundly wrong, our brain rejects it, causing a deep sense of revulsion and fear. A smile that is too wide, on a face that is too still, fits this description perfectly. It's a face that our minds simply cannot process, short-circuiting our sense of reality and safety. A third, more ancient theory posits that the Grinning Man is some kind of primal forest guardian, a nature spirit with malevolent intent. In this view, it's not just a random phantom, but a territorial being, and those who trespass in its domain, be it a dark road or a quiet wood, are met with its terrifying warning. Whatever it is, a fear-eating entity, a psychological anomaly, or an ancient guardian, all the encounters share one common, terrifying thread. It appears suddenly, when you are at your most vulnerable. It smiles, its impossible, soul-crushing smile, and then it vanishes, leaving nothing behind but pure, unadulterated terror and a memory that will haunt you forever. So I leave you with this final warning. If you're ever alone, in the dark, and you see a grin that shouldn't exist, don't blink. Don't try to get a closer look. And whatever you do, never forget what you saw, because it will never forget you. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story is designed to give you a brand new nightmare. Sleep well.